I'm going to go in and just set this to something really simple, at least for a quarter of this. Again, we're getting into objects that we can start to model with very, very limited amounts of topology when we get these subdiv proxies together again. Double click those edges, detach those components, select the faces we don't need, and then just move this down. We can snap the points. Let's see. Let's go ahead. D, V, make sure we snap to there, and then just D, I'm sorry, V, snap to there. It's at the origin, so we can kind of scale it outwards this way. We can also start to scale it. These two axes out like that, and I'm just going to check that against what we got in here. Leans back a little bit, down. Again, just roughing it out right now. Not being too precious. With how a lot of this gets put together. Go ahead and scale that out. Build it to here, since I'm sort of conforming it more to this profile view right now. Go ahead and scale it in there. Move on to creating these exhausts and the hoses for that, or at least the connectors, those tubes. Let's go ahead and create this right down the z-axis. Can pull that out about like that. Again, transform to stage. If we can keep it to that object orientation, you'll be in good shape. Move it right down to there, or we could just go in and start to set the height. Keep it to there. In terms of the subdivisions around the axis, I'm going to use something really simple like 8 right now. And then along the height, I'm going to put 2 so we can have at least something that creates the flare, and then finished point. And that's when, once you stage it in 3D, I'll go ahead and rotate it a little bit like that. You can start to manipulate components. And for that, I would just, let's go ahead and select it, right click, get that edge loop, and shift and right click and slide that edge loop just about to there. And then in the perspective view, we can go ahead and scale that up to achieve that flare. Get a little bit of a result like that. We'll worry about creating the hole and things like that later. If you want to create type of an elbow, it's going to be fairly simple too. We can stick with cylinders for this, but we can keep it really basic. So while there's lots of different things that we could do for these pipes, because we're working with a subdiv proxy, a cylinder that we just rotate some edge loops on is going to be fine. And we can draw this down the z-axis as well, and then pull the depth of it out over to here, move it forward. We can go into this top view. If you see your cameras at any point, you want to disable them, just go to show and cameras, and you can turn those off. Under the inputs for the cylinder, we're going to make this 8 around. Again, it doesn't really need a lot. We can go to the subdivisions along the height. 2 would give it 1 in the middle. If I make it 4, it's going to put 1 on either side, which is really what I want. A lot of this I'm not going to use. Then I'm just going to right click, grab some vertices, and I want to rotate this, but I want to rotate it from here. So I'm going to hold D, I'm going to move that forward. And if we want to, we can go into a shaded mode that has X-ray selected, and then you can start to rotate this and then move it. And if you want to, you can deselect aspects of this. Just keep moving like that, and then we can select this, shift, select those. Just make sure we get everything. I just want to get that to a 90-degree turn, and you just want to sort of move it to adjust for the skewing. And ultimately, there's going to be an aspect of this like this we don't even need. We can detach those components, get rid of all that on the end. And if we need to even out these, we can double click these and we can edit the edge flow. Might not give us the best result. Maybe you have to do it one at a time. So let's edit the edge flow there. Sometimes this inflates out, and that can be a little bit of an issue. In which case I would just say, getting in there and rotating it. We're really going to find out how this is going to look when we actually apply the subdiv proxy. You can even kind of inflate these up, because rotating these, we're going to get into nonlinear deformers in a later module. Really don't need to work on that for now. Just wanted to get some type of elbow curve in there. We can even scale this down a little bit just to get the radius a little bit better, and I can delete that cap by double clicking that edge loop, detaching the components off of that, and then go ahead and deleting that. And then it's just a matter of staging it at this point. Okay, it might not be completely accurate. It's not that much of a problem right now. It's not really what we're shooting for. We're just trying to block things in and get them staged in a general sense. You can always take it over to here and see how this is connected. If we need to extrude edge loops out, we can. Just getting some simple forms put together. So there's a lot of detail forms. There's some poly pipes that go along here in terms of some details. Some divisions here. We've got the brake pedals. We've got the steering wheel. We can go ahead and create the steering wheel for the last object, and then we're going to start to get into actually doing some subdiv proxies for this. Again, for the steering wheel, probably best to create a torus, and we can create that probably down the z-axis as well. Just go ahead and zero out the x-axis. Use all 4 views to bring this forward. Rotate this. Just bring it locally. And it's massive right now, but we can then start to bring down the radius. Hold control. Section radius. That brings it down to about the thickness that we need. And then we can bring out the radius a little bit more. For this, we might not even need a sub-D or a smooth subdiv proxy. This has plenty of topology on it. But we're going to work pretty simply. So, bringing this down in terms of the axis and the height subdivisions, Let's make the axis subdivision something like 6. Actually, excuse me, let's make it like 16. And then let's go ahead and make the subdivisions along the height maybe like 6. Something very simple, off of which I will go ahead and make that 8. Just add ones at the top and the bottom. It gives us a nice basis for an object. And then based off of this, we can create some smaller objects. We can look to the 3D reference that we have and start to create it from there. So this looks like, a good block out to get us started, and we can start to isolate each of these objects to shape out a nice subdiv proxy based off of each of these. Let's go ahead and name our objects finally. So I've gone ahead and named these, and I've used this YK underscore prefix just so everything has the Yoshi card prefix to it. But I've got the front end, I've got the chassis, I've got an underscore L underscore side bumper, and I might go ahead and separate those with the underscore as well. I've got the L front wheel, the L rear wheel, and we'll work on those alone, and then we'll create the other side from that. We've got the steering column, I've got the seat, I've got the engine, and I've got the exhaust and an exhaust pipe that we're going to adjust, and then the steering wheel. The image planes themselves, you can go ahead and name them based off of their view, but that's not really as important. I'm going to keep these out of any groups or anything like that, any type of hierarchy right now, because I want to go ahead and start to isolate these one at a time, and then I'll be grouping these together once I get done. Go ahead and save my scene out. There's another working iteration. And now you're ready to start to sort of isolate each of these, use them as subdiv proxy objects, and start to model into them to create the final subdivided version of this.